All right, we are live, and I think I'm finally getting the hang of. Oh, I spoke too soon. Uh, getting the hang of how YouTube kind of interacts, so that's pretty cool. Still working a few kinks out, as you can see, but we're getting there, friend. We are getting there. Let's just make sure we broadcast that we are live, although I think it does a pretty good job at doing that for me, right? That would seem reasonable. Okay, there we go. Today we're going to do a league round 2 recap, and I'm just going to be going over my round 2 matchup. Boop and boop. League recap. All right, there we go. So we're doing an ITC ranked league right now. There are 16 players, and there's some very good ones in there. You know, it's obviously a lot of locals, but don't discredit the locals. Like sometimes there's some very strong players, and if you start telling them that things are ITC ranked, you're gonna start pulling the more competitive people anyway. So we're gonna dig in. Let's do some announcements first, as we do. Again, hey, I appreciate all the subscribers. Make sure you share this video if you like what I'm doing. Make sure you're subscribing. Most of my views come from subscribers, so I have no complaints. We've got a very dedicated and awesome community, and I appreciate you all very much. Big shout out to my boy at Proxy Hammer. I'll make sure we put a link in the description to his channel. He's done a great job. Just helping me promote and just being supportive, and I want to make sure that I reciprocate that kind of attitude. You know, let's make each other better. Let's build each other up. I love it. I am doing a giveaway. It is the Umbral 6. You bet, Nick. You know, I know you're not in the States if I remember right. You're overseas, so I have no idea what time it is even there. So I appreciate you just popping on to say that much, buddy. We are doing the Umbral 6 giveaway. It was painted by Midwest Minis. That's our boy Tyler. And again, I'll make sure I put a link in the description to his Instagram. I don't think he has a YouTube channel right now. I'll get with him and I'll edit it and fix it later. It is a gorgeous model. The link to the video for the giveaway will be in the description. And if I can go back and retroactively add a card to a live stream, I will add the card so that we can just have it flash up right now and you can just click the screen and be like, hell yeah, dude, I'm doing it. Big shout out to militarygamingcommand.org, some awesome veterans that are doing a nonprofit and they're doing great things, and they have allowed me to be able to come in and kind of help support them in a lot of ways. Again, just check out the website. I don't want to bore everybody by constantly repeating everything all the time, so I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis. Thanks again. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go over my list for the league. It hasn't changed, obviously. It's a space raid. My homunculus coven is +1 strength and exploding sixes in the fight phase. And then I took cursed blade for my witches and poison tongue for my cabalites. Uh, and again, the reason for cursed blade is that I like wounding marines on threes. It's funny. It makes me laugh. It doesn't make the marine player laugh. Um, and that actually came up with my game against Zach, and Zach's a very good player. Don't misunderstand it. He's a very good player. He went with us to Cagbash. He also went 3-2. He went 4-1 at the Milwaukee GT he just went to. So he is a very good player. Let's see, Curse Blade, Poison Tongue, and I don't know if Poison Tongue is the best take, but I really just like the interaction of I wound everything on threes, and if you don't want me to wound you on threes, you're gonna have to spend those command points, and they're not there to necessarily do a ton of damage. It's more to just chip wounds and to what's the word I'm looking for here? It's basically it, just chip damage. I've got some meltas and stuff in there, but it's there for chip damage, right? His Thunderwolf Cavalry had a 2-up save, and I was constantly able to chip 1 or 2 wounds off of him by shooting him with splinter rifles, and that was relevant. You know, it was super relevant. Just constantly being able to do these little onesie twosies here, even though they had a 2-up save. Oh, I guess we go through the rest of the list. I have the Archon. All he has is the Helm of Spite. He is the upgraded one, so I can get some Trueborn. Let's see. The Helm of Spite gives me a deny, and if I deny you, you suffer perils. Wasn't relevant this game, but he's there. I do have the Succubus with the Triptych Whip and Precise Strikes. I think she gets like 10 or 11 attacks on the charge. Her hit rolls of 6 do 2 mortal wounds in the attack sequence ends, and then the Triptych Whip is poison 2. And again, it's by far, in my opinion, the best combo you can do in the book with them because Drukhari need to do damage. So when you take defensive buffs for your witches, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. The Homunculus, I don't think I gave him anything. I didn't. He's just there. He's just there for the +1 toughness aura. So we've got a unit of Trueborn. They have 2 blasters and 1 Dark Lance. There's 10 of them in the squad. We have a 6-man of Cabalites with a blaster, 10 Blood Brides, 2 units of 5 Racks. And again, these are all just like very standard fair stuff. We do have 5 Scourges, 4 with a Haywire. And then we have 2 Talos. They both have the Haywire. And the reason I have the Haywire, right, is because I need to wound Knights or Land Raiders or anything that's T9. If it's a vehicle, I need to wound it on better than 5s. And that gives me that interaction, because even in melee, I'm wounding it on 5s. So if I hit, like, even just a Great Unclean one, I don't know if anybody's playing Demons in the league or not, but if I hit that Great Unclean one, I'm going to be hurting just because I don't have anything to interact with it outside of the poison, because they're not Titanic. So it's just one of those where that's why we went with Haywire instead of maybe like a Heat Gun or a Dark Lance or something, just so we had a more consistent interaction. I don't like the Haywire simply because they're heavy weapons, so I literally don't have anything that hits on better than 4s, right? Because the Scourges are going to be moving almost every turn, so they're going to be hitting on 4s, and it's just a weird interaction. 5 Hellions, and then 5 Incubi. We do have Drazar. And then we've got 5 Grotesques, a Raider, 2 Venoms, and a Tantalus. And I'm pretty sure that's it. If I'm missing anything, it's just small, something little. I will say I've played a lot of games with Drukhari. I think about 45 since November, December timeframe. So it's been a lot, right? And up until this game, I had been really struggling if I went second. And we're going to dig into why. Right. So first things first, we did conversion. Let's. I know everybody loves it when I draw, so we're gonna draw, homie. We had an objective here. Do we have? No. All right, that's fine. And then it's like here. Yeah, you guys should be able to see that. And then like here. And these aren't going to be exact. They don't need to be. Here and here. And then the deployments are this, this, and then the little 9-inch bubble here, right? And then obviously the other deployment is the samesies. We go here, and then the 9-inch bubble here. Right, so turn 1, I put the Tantalus in reserve, okay? But I didn't put anything inside of it because it's not a dedicated transport, so I don't actually have to start with things in it. You only have to put things in your transport if it fills the dedicated transport slot. And the reason for that is looking at you, Craft World players, with your Wave Serpent spam. That's a big part of why. That, and there was one other one, but that was the big one. Probably the Harlequins one also, but I wouldn't swear to it. But again, that's still just coming out of the same codex. I did go second, and I have not exactly been quiet about the fact that I've struggled if I go second with this army. Competitively, I have a 100% go first win rate and a 0% go second win rate, and that changed today. And even just in like casual games, I use that term loosely, but just like pickup games, it was like a 40-70 split, right? Like 70% go first, 40% go second. I did go second, and I what I opted to do, okay? I'm going to go through this. We'll talk about the key points, and then I'll just kind of walk you through a little bit on the map. I opted just give him the table. I was just like, cool, I'm going to move very minimally because I don't like playing that way, right? Like I want to be able to play and interact, and I don't like just giving up whole turns, but that's basically what I did. I did poke a Venom and a Raider out, and I dumped some blasters into a Redemptor, and I killed one Cavalry with poison weapons. And that honestly was just dice, right? So he went first. I don't know exactly how he moved, but I know his Redemptor got to like right about here. And then he had his Thunderwolf Cavalry here. And then all his shooting was just kind of tucked away. He had a Dreadnought here and a Redemptor over here also. And I literally just like took my Raider, bounced it up here, and took a Venom, bounced it up here. Okay? And then I was able to get within 18 of the Redemptor. So it had 2 blasters and a Dark Lance going into it from the boat, plus the Dark Lance on the boat. And I just got lucky. Redemptors don't have an invulnerable save or a feel no pain, and that thing just melted. I believe it exploded, but it didn't do much. Like maybe a wound or two to his cavalry. And then my splinter cannons, and then my poison rifles all went into the Thunderwolf cavalry, and I managed to kill one. Now the question is, can I undo things here? Can we just control Z? We can. Hot damn, Sam. So then I spent my 2 CP to fire and fade. And actually my Raider here was actually kind of down here a little bit more. And then it just fire and faded here, right? So then my Raider kind of ended up in this position to kind of block off my DZ. And then my Venom, I just kept here. And that's important because the only unit he had positioned to charge the middle of the board was the Redemptor, and that's just because his army's a little slower. But that becomes important. Turn 1, boring for both of us. I killed a Redemptor, blah, 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 which we just covered. All right, so turn 2, he held pretty much all the objectives. I mean, he didn't, actually. He only held 2, but it was more because I only held 1 at the start of my turn, and that was my home objective. I just gave him the whole table and was just like, all right, we're going to focus on getting primaries later instead of riding the struggle bus like I had been, okay? So then what ended up happening, and this turn was the turn he made the big mistake. Like, I do think this is the mistake that cost him the game. He brought his... No, he didn't bring his Wolfen out yet, I don't think. Or no, he did. He brought his Wolfen out. I had some Blood Brides that were not up here yet. So maybe he didn't. Anyway, not super relevant because that wasn't the big mistake. No, he did. He brought something up here because I had to come kill it. Something was right up in here. But again, that's not the mistake. That's not what's relevant. So his next turn, he pushed his Thunderwolf Cav, and they did a big advance. Like, he rolled like a 6, and they got somewhere in this vicinity. And then he brought in his Chaplain and Vanguard vets also. So he had this big wall of melee. And then he spent his 2 CP to auto charge. He shot my Venom and my Raider. I spent the command point to make my Raider -1 to hit, and he wasn't able to kill either of them. Or no, he killed the Raider, or he killed the Venom, I should say. And I was able to just barely get within 3 with my infantry unit, and then snake them back to the cover, so that at the start of my turn I would control 2 as long as he didn't make any charges. But again, because his stuff was so slow, he just wasn't in a good position to make those charges. And then obviously his turn came around. The only thing, or his charge phase came around. The only thing he had that he could charge was my Raider because I had blocked him off so well. And I mean, he made the charge. He got to add 2 to it, and everything got in. And the first thing that swung killed my Raider, which was fine. My Trueborn got out. He piled into my Trueborn. And then I don't even think I wounded him. But he had, let's see, I'm going to see if I can make a note here. 5 fancy text. Oh, shit. 5 Vanguard. And I think it was 3 Thunderwolf Cav and a Chaplain. So we're going to drag. Oh, I see. I see. So this is everything that he did, right? Can we border that? That'd be neat if we could. Oh, it's not gonna work if I do it over there. What a silly goose I am. Letter spacing, line height, line width, fix size. We can bold it at least, just to make it a little easier. Set outline. Perfect. So we have 5 Vanguard vets, 3 Thunderwolf Cav, and a Chaplain that were all just sitting right here. And he had to spend his 2 command points to make that litany go off. So he wasn't going to be able to interrupt on my turn, right? So we can get rid of all this. So then my turn came around, and boop. He killed, blah, 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 but all of that died on my turn, and all of his mobility was gone. Because what ended up happening was my Grotesque just slammed into multiple units. I was able to get my Succubus into multiple units. Then I was able to get my something else in. I don't remember what it was. Something got in there also. It was Grotesques, it was the Succubus, and then there was one other unit that got in. But I also was able to just advance my Hellions way over here and tag this objective. And then my Homunculus just advanced also. I had a unit of Rax just chilling on this objective, and then my other unit of Rax died to some bolter fire or something. It is what it is. But the Homunculus was just going to run up here and kind of give them to drop a banner, and he ended up doing that, and that was fine. But yeah, so like the Succubus, man, I think I rolled like 3 6s to hit his Chaplain, and I was just like, he's dead. And Zach was just like, what the fuck, you know? And it's a wild interaction, and it's very dice dependent. I've definitely played games where the whole game she doesn't get a single hit roll of 6, but she'll still do damage just because she gets so many attacks, and it's -3 for 2 damage. So like she still does stuff, right? My Grotesques kind of cleaned up. My Succubus kind of went around behind them, or actually I think she went behind the wall here. And then his turn 3, right? All his mobility's gone. I pushed him down to 2 objectives in turn 2, and then I held 2 objectives in turn 2. I did miss an Oza the Moment score for him here, and it's only 2 points. Like, he didn't end within the center, I don't think, even if it was 4. Like, I apologize, Zach, but we were both keeping score, and we both missed that one, so that was our mistake. He was too far away to really get any charges, and then because of that, he couldn't get Codex Warfare because he's got to cycle through the doctrines. He's not built to shoot me off the table. He's got to cycle through them, so he's got to kill things in melee, right? And we talked about that after the game. I'll kind of discuss that also. But he was too far away to make any charges, so he didn't get Warrior's Pride. Oh, and in turn 2, my Tantalus came down like right here, and then charged his unit that was in the terrain. And between the Tantalus and my Blood Brides, it died. So the Tantalus being there is what's important here because it was strategic reserves. I could bring it wholly within 6 inches of of a table edge and in my deployment zone and still be next to him, right? So that was pretty cool, being able to do that. Now the Tantalus actually does a lot of work this game, which was, I mean, to be fair, most games it does a lot of work. So then we get to turn 3. And turn 3 is where I start like picking up my secondaries. I get my first behind enemy lines. I get the Archon and the Hellions into the deployment zone for 4 points. I was able to put down another banner. Tantalus killed him off an objective, and I knocked him down to 0 objectives. So here's how that shook out. Let's clean this up a bit. All right. So my Tantalus just jumps up here. He's got like incursors, infiltrators, whatever, something here. And he's got some wolf in here that failed the charge, so they're just chilling. I don't care about the wolfen because they're not on the objective. Okay? I throw my shots from the Tantalus at some Devastators and kill the Terminator out of the squad. Basically, I fish for the Terminator save, and then once he rolls that save, that Terminator has to roll saves until it's either dead or the phase ends. So I was fishing for that Terminator with some neg 1 shooting because he was the only one that was on cover. And Zach was just like, cool, I'll put it on the Terminator. He's got a 2-up save. And I was like, cool, now here's 12 shots that are neg 3 and 2 damage each. I'm going to kill that Terminator before I charge it, right? Because the Terminator, I'm not trying to mess with my -1 AP melee. Like, I'm not about that life. So my plan was to try to fish the Terminator out with some shooting from a Venom. I got that, got the Terminator killed. I've got my Hellions that are kind of like right here. We get to this back objective with them. The other Devastators, I forget what I charged with, but basically they got smoked. Oh, that was them. That was the Devastators I charged because they were kind of like in a line here. And then the Hellions I was able to charge up here. And then, yeah, they got smoked. And then I moved my homunculus up here. He grabbed, and I might have even had to advance, but I'm pretty sure he grabbed an objective through a banner down type of thing. My grotesques soaked so much of his shooting, and then they just advanced to the middle of the board. I think I had 3 left, and they just chewed through. I failed almost every feel no pain, and they still just ate most of his shooting because they were T6 with the homunculus. The way they were positioned, they were T6, 6-up invuln, 5-up feel no pain, and 4 wounds each. So it was just like, cool, man. Everything that isn't anti-tank is just wounding me on 5s. Like, this is what we're doing. Archon, like I said, came up. Tantalus shot, got that off. Then we charge here. I get a lucky roll because on a 4-up it does a D3 mortals. I get the 4-up and I did 3 mortals, and then the rest of them died to the Tantalus melee because in turn 3 I'm adding 1 to hit rolls. So it was just 3s and 2s. So it was just like, cool, here you go. And I rolled like 2 wounds of 6, so it was like, here's 2 neg 3s and 2 neg 2s, and they're all 2 damage each. Because my Tantalus is strength 8 because I put it in the homunculus coven. Right? So, and my 6s explode when I fight. It's so funny when I charge people with vehicles and I'm just like, ha 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 ha, pick up your infantry to my stupid boat, and they're just like, why? Um, so I cleared him off of this objective. I cleared him off of this objective, and I cleared him off of this objective, and then I held all but I think I held them all. But the main thing was that I held it here, and that gave me 4 points. So between me getting 4 points there and him losing 12 because he didn't control more anymore, right? The fact that I was able to knock him off all those objectives, that was a minimum 12-point swing, but it actually was probably a 16-point swing. And then he didn't retake that objective for the rest of the game. So that's 3, 4, and 5. That's 3 victory points he lost. So in that one turn alone, I was able to set up almost a 20-point swing in the score. And that's all stemmed from him putting all of his mobility right here and then me being able to kill it. And then now I have free reign to bounce all the way up the side of the board, and he had nothing to catch me. So was a very big deal. And then we got to turn 4. He did get all of his secondaries, right? He got multiple charges. He got O's. He killed a vehicle character or monster. It was probably a vehicle. Might have been a monster because he might have killed my Talos at that point. Because like he still had Redemptors and the shield axe dreads. I don't remember what they're called. The Wolfen dreads maybe. Um, so he got 1 point on corrupted ground because he did manage to control an objective. He charged my Tantalus with his Wolfen, and he was gonna swing out this way. And I was like, Zach, stop, man. Come around this way. Take the objective. If you go the other way, I'm just going to punish you for it. Like, you're going to have your Wolfen out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to kill them, and they're not going to be able to do you anything, whereas at least this way they score some points. Even if you don't kill my Tantalus, which they did, because they had, like, I don't know. They were just bonkers. Like, the Wolfen just destroyed whatever they touched, and it was hilarious. But he did kill the Tantalus. It exploded, I believe. And if it didn't kill the Wolfen, but it did explode because it killed 3 of the Wolfen with D6 mortals. But yeah, so it's just one of those where is what it is. But he still held the objective, and that was what was important because it kept him from losing points. He still netted 1 point on corrupted ground, and then it set him up to score points in turn 5. And then the key moments in turn 4, all he had left at the end of the turn was 1 Redemptor that was like right here, and then his Wolfen that were back here. He had a whatever that poopy dreadnought is with the storm shield or whatever, and I tagged it with a blaster. Did some damage with either I mean it was 2 blasters and a dark lance, but it was still alive because it's got a 4-up invuln, but it only had a handful of wounds left. And then I charged it with the succubus. I did the potent metallotoxins on her, and then was just like, again, just got like a bonkers hit roll and was just like, cool, man, this thing can eat like 8 mortal wounds. Pick it up. I'm not fucking with it. And he was just like, why? And it was just like, I don't make the rules, buddy. I'm just playing with what I've got. um so it's one of those where it is what it is. Key moments, turn 5. There weren't really any, like, he did get a few more charges off. He did get some O's of the moment because I didn't kill his Redemptor. The Redemptor actually didn't die the whole game, and I didn't even worry about killing it at that point. Like, I threw some dice at it, and if it died, awesome. If it didn't, oh well. He's just getting extra points for O's. But I did make sure we got rid of the Wolfen so I could get all my no prisoner points. Excuse me. And I'm going to talk about why I took what I took in just a couple minutes. I did get 12 points on behind enemy lines, and I scored that for the last 3 rounds. So not taking Herd the Prey, I think, was the difference in me winning after going second and all the games that I lose going second. Because taking Herd the Prey and going second is a distinct disadvantage because you're losing the ability to position and countercharge as people come into those table quarters. If I had a more shooting-based army, right? If I just played only Kabalites or just like a very shooty Drukhari, it would probably be a little easier if I went second. But because of the style of play that I take, I think that is a big part of why I struggle when going second is I just take Herd the Prey most games because it's usually a very good secondary, and I'm usually scoring 8 to 12 points on it minimum. And the games that I lose are the games that I don't score 8 to 12 points. I do think that my time playing with my boys has helped a lot. I don't think I'd have even considered behind enemy lines, except I had built my Evil Sun's Orc army to do specifically that, right? Like with my Storm Boys and my bikes, like we're just slingshotting units into your deployment zone every turn. And I just kind of took that approach with this army. I was just like, okay, we're going to try and just do a very similar style thing. I'm a little bit squishier, so I'm going to not be able to take the counter punches hard, but I'm going to hit a little harder. Like the Hellions are strength 5, neg 1, 2 damage with the way I've kitted them out, and they have shock assault. Because they get +1 strength for their melee weapon, and then they get +1 strength for Cursed Blade, because they're +1, -1, 2 damage. So it's a very it's a trade-off, right? The orcs being T5 is kind of memey, but at the same time, it's a lot better than T3. So I do think, like I said, that just made a big difference. Is just having a little bit different appreciation for some of the other secondaries, and then uh, honestly, even if I'd have lost that game, I just feel like it felt a lot better because I was consistently in the game. Like turn one and turn two, I was just like, oh man, this is going to be rough because he just held all the objectives. But when he deep striked in, like I said, when he did that and all he could charge was my raider, and he committed everything to my raider and just had everything sitting there, and then I knew he didn't have the command points to interrupt, so I didn't have to worry about popping my incubi out or Drazar, uh, and I was just able to kind of annihilate him with those things. That was a big difference because then I didn't have to overcommit, right? And we talked about that. And then real quick before we dig into my round three matchup, there were a couple other things I wanted to touch on again. Right, we're going to touch on his secondaries. So he took Codex Warfare. We're going to go over both of our secondaries. Right, he took Codex Warfare because for most Marine armies that's an auto take. I would argue that it is not an auto take for the way he's playing his Space Wolves. I would argue that it's a very matchup specific take. Um, because he went first and because I could deploy very well, right? Like after playing 8th Ed and just like the Alpha Strike armies, I've learned how to deploy my armies very well. So I just was like, no, you're not shooting me turn one. That's not what we're doing. I'm not messing with it. That's dumb. I don't like it. So because he didn't have anything to shoot, he couldn't kill anything in his Devastator Doctrine. And each unit in the Devastator Doctrine is worth 2 points. But units in the Tactical and the Assault Doctrine are only worth 1 point. And basically, I just was able to outmaneuver him when he committed all of that mobility to one thing and then it died. At that point, I was able to just kind of stay outside of his charge and threat ranges. And then things he killed, he had to kill in shooting. And it just denied him points because now once he hit the Assault Doctrine, he wasn't really able to charge anything. And it was very just kind of poopy for him, right? And when he did finally kill stuff with his heavy weapons, it was in turn two. But we talked about that, and he agreed. He agreed with me on it. That like assassinate might have been a better take. It's kind of a trap. I mean, yes, I have 4 characters, but like you got to be real careful with Drazar, and you got to be real careful with the Succubus. The Archon is whatever. He's not like there to do damage, and then the Homunculus is whatever. But it's one of those where the whole game would have been played very differently had he taken that instead of Codex Warfare. So it's hard to say if he would have or would not have scored it just because at that point it's a completely different game. He positions differently, he prioritizes targets differently, and everything. Warrior Pride, that is definitely an auto take. I think he gets 3 points if 2 or more units make a charge. And it's just like, yeah, all right, dude. Like, I love it. I'm glad he's got a really good one that he can take. It's just like, okay, uh, anything that just gives you points for playing the game is almost always an auto take, right? And then Oaths, he did pretty well on. He scored 11, but he actually scored 13. So I can't argue with those. Like I said, we missed 2 points. We might have even missed 4 points. I don't remember. But like I said, at the end of the day, we both missed it. It wasn't a big deal. Because he definitely didn't fall back and he definitely didn't fail any morales. So he got at least one. I bet that's what he got. I bet he got 1 point. That's probably why we missed it. Because I forgot that that's not 2 separate triggers, that's one trigger. It's don't fall back, don't fail morale, kill a vehicle, character, or monster. So he might have, yeah, we missed 2 points. We definitely missed two. Perfect. So he would have had 68 instead of 66. And like I said, we both missed it, so it's not the end of the world. My secondaries, let's go back over mine. Let's see if we can find a better picture here. Bam. I know there's one. Okay. So normally I'd take Herd the Prey, right? And I was like, you know what? We're going to try behind enemy lines. We're playing conversion. It's got nice big deployment zones. I should be able to kind of like leapfrog into his and score at least 8 points, right? Like 8 to 9. If I can get one unit for 3 turns and get 9 points, um, going second, cool. Like I cannot complain. No prisoners. I could only score 10 points on it. I think that's what I got. And it was just one of those where I just didn't have a good option. Like I got 10 points for no prisoners, 10 points for assassinate, and then only like 2, 4, 5, like 6 or 7 points for bring it down. And the Drukari secondaries generally kind of suck, so I wasn't gonna take those. So we opted for. Oh, you know what? Let me live chat. I just realized that I had this set to not show me all messages. So I wanted to check and make sure I wasn't missing out on some messages. Let me double check that. Boop. Silly goose. Your channel. Boop. Boop. Let me take a look. Sorry about this. All right, all right, all right. Perfect. All right, so yeah, that's where we're at. And then raise the banners again. I'm just trying some different things. And banners I scored 11 on, so I can't complain. Most of them came late game as I was like last minute dropping a bunch of banners on the table. And I mean, it scored me 3 additional points. I went from 8 to 11, and the one in my deployment zone was worth 5. So I had 5, and then I had one other banner score me a couple points, and then I got a few more at the end of the game. So it was very good. I can't complain. 88 points with Drukari is well above the average, and like I said, Zach is not a slouch of a player. He's a very very good player, and he's an exceptional Space Wolves player. So I am just like I'm super happy that we had a good game. It was a good game. Both of us were pretty dead at the end of the game, and it really came down to the one mistake he made. And it's so we had an interesting conversation during the game where he was like, "I've played against Drukari, but I haven't played against them a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fair." But he was like, "The guy that I play plays a lot of Garage Hammer, not a lot of actual like competitive stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I see." And what that means is you know, Garage Hammer gets a little weird because like Zach's tried to help those guys kind of know the rules a little bit better, and his Garage Hammer League is just like, nah, dude, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And Zach's like, yeah, yeah, it is. But he's just to the point now where he doesn't care. Like he just kind of lets them play their way, and because it's a little bit more of a fun-based, friendly-based thing. Not that we don't have fun or aren't friendly with our competitive games, but it's just a different atmosphere, right? Like these guys aren't really looking to care as much about the rules as they are about telling a good story when they play their games. So there's certain things that he knows exists, but he hasn't seen them in the hands of a person that actually knows the rules and knows how to play the army. So watching grotesque, like he knows grotesques and he's very much aware of them. But then watching me go, okay, they're hitting on twos, re-rolling once. I'm going to spend 2 command points. They're re-rolling wounds, and you can just pick that up. I'm not messing with it. So he was just like, yeah, no, like never saw him used that way, and I was like, it's fair because the grotesques are core, and in the space raid, the Archon gives a 6-inch aura of reroll hit rolls of 1 for all core, not just Cabal. So like my Scourges, my Grotesques, my Incubi, like all kinds of things, and that was the big thing. And Drazar, he hasn't really seen, but he knows how he interacts. So again, like if you've not seen Drazar, reading the data sheet is one thing, but watching him just do the Lord's work is another thing. Watching him just slam into like a Redemptor and just pick it up, dude. I'm not messing with it. Is very different because Drazar hits on twos, but when he slams into that Redemptor, he's gonna wound it on fours. His wound rolls of 6 are an additional pip of AP and damage. So like if I get 2 wound rolls of 6, your Redemptor is taking 6 damage after reduction. and then I get to fight again. So if you don't have an interrupt, there's a good chance he's just smoking that Redemptor just through weight of dice. Let's see. Anything else we needed to talk about? We talked about takeaways, round three. Oh, my round three matchup. So I'm 2-0 right now in the league, which does make me at 500 competitively for Drukari, which I'm actually pretty happy about. It's been a struggle. The first two tournaments I did, I went second 4 out of my 6 games and just was struggling. And now that I've kind of taken that break and come back to it, I think I've kind of found the secret sauce to help me close the gap in that go second win rate with my current list. Uh, the Leviathan Nids, he's a very strong pilot. Ended last year as a top 100 Nids player, so it's gonna be a game, buddy. Super nice dude, and I look forward to playing him. We're gonna try to knock that out this week. I have not gotten to play against Leviathan specifically, and really I haven't gotten to play against Nids much since their most recent nerf in the data slate, so I don't really know what's changed. I think it's mostly points hikes. The last time he and I played, I would play the Yanari list against him, and I lost that game. And I'm not taking anything away from him, but he didn't win it. I lost it because I misplayed my Incarn. And really, all that happened was I did one fight phase out of sequence and then wasn't able to teleport her because I did it out of sequence. And once that happened, that was it. And I knew that was it. Like, boom. I have now misplayed because once she came off the table, I had nothing to apply that pressure. And we've talked about that before. The Incarn is a high pressure unit. And if she dies, it tends to make your whole Yanari list unravel because of the amount of pressure. I went second every game round one, and then I went first. I think every game day two. I mean, day one, I think I went second every game, and day two, I think I went first every game. Um, and I lost against the Custodes player, but we talked about why. Like, that's just because I didn't have OBSEC in my list. Had I had OBSEC, I feel like that was a very winnable game. Having 0 OBSEC and still scoring 30 points in primaries against an all OBSEC Custodes list, and then still doing well on my secondaries, like, that's a very winnable game. And then I lost to the round five, the guard guy. Oh, I did go second that game. Because the tables were a little wider at Cag Bash, which created a lot more shooting lanes that wouldn't normally be there. And it was one of those where, yeah, he is a strong pilot, buddy. Uh, I, I don't know why you got quotes around it. I'm not trying to downplay that he's good. uh, yeah. The Yanari dude I played was all right. Like, he was a good dude. But yeah, his dice were real good, but my dice were also real good. That was kind of a neat interaction to have us both have a couple of really lucky dice rolls back to back to back. Um, but yeah, no, it's gonna be a good game. Like I said, I feel like I've kind of gotten. I think my time with my orcs over the last month or so has really helped me kind of reapproach Drukari with a fresh mindset. And I do think taking like behind enemy lines is just a better pick for me. For most games, if you're playing a slow army, I might still take Herd the Prey just because even if I go second, I should still get 2 points. But I do think that was the big change. Had I taken Herd the Prey, I don't think I score near as many points because Zach did a great job of being all over the place. And like I said, I think our game just came down to one mistake, right? And that was sending all his very mobile units into a raider and then watching them die. Right. Yeah, I remember you saying that. And that's funny. And it's funny that that's how that interaction went because, like, my interaction against the Incarn was the exact opposite. When he smited a Death Dread with a Warlock, and then it exploded, and then killed the Warlock and knocked the Incarn down to 1 wound, and then the Incarn smited a Death Dread, and then it exploded, and then knocked the Incarn out of the game, and I just scored 6 victory points by doing nothing. But it was also one of those where it was right after he had rolled his needed a 1 for RBD, gets the 1. So it was just like such a wild sequence of events where it was like, oh, he's in the lead. Oh, I'm in the lead. And it's all off of just stupid dice rolls. So, absolutely, man. Cag Bash was such a great time. So, I do think if I'm going to be looking at the schedule, if I can get just it was super messed up. If I can get even just a 1 day event in April, I'm gonna try to. Just play in a 1 day event, and then I've got Region Con, which will be Friday the 21st, which is weird, but that's the day they allocated to me, so that's the day I've got. I'm going to have two tournaments side by side at the same time. So I'm just going to be running two different events at the same time. And I'm going to use one tournament as overflow for the other. And then hopefully, if we get a good turnout, because even if we only get like 20 people, I'm happy. If we get a good turnout, though, I can convince them to give me 2 days next year, right? Like, hey, I've got 20 people. And if I can make it a 2 day event like a GT, I can probably get even more people next year. And so that's my goal for that, is to just kind of use that as a, hey, look, this is what I can bring you. So hopefully we can start picking up some registrants here pretty soon. I know usually like the last couple weeks beforehand is when it like really picks up, and I think it's already up to like 8 or 9. I have to double check. But Darren and DJ dropped when he was thinking about just getting out of 40K altogether, and I kind of talked to him about everything, and we kind of had that discussion. And then he still wanted to drop from the league because he's realizing what the issue was with his scoring. And Darren dropped just as a courtesy to keep the numbers even, because he was a late ad, and then he was like, "Oh, you know what? If we have odd numbers, I'll just go ahead and drop." Right? And I was like, "If you want to, man, like it's okay." But he was just like, "No, I don't want to mess up the matchups." So we ended up having two people drop. And I think I'm trying to remember who you match up with this week, but I've got Bo, as we've already discussed. A strong pilot. I don't, again, I don't know why Jimmy decided to put quotes around that. I mean, he's a very strong pilot with that list, and is what it is. It's just funny. And then I think Anto's got Krishna. So I don't think that's going to go well for Krishna, because he's playing his Iron Hands. Is that what they are? Yeah, Iron Hands. And obviously Anto's got his boys, so I think that's going to be a rough game for Krishna. I think Krishna's just benefited. Nothing against him; he's definitely gotten better, but I think he's just benefited from some good matchups round 1 and 2. And then Frank ends up playing Rich, and oh yeah, and Hazy's a good dude, super nice. So he comes to the events with Eric, that goofy dude that brought the town R. Hazy's one of his buddies. So cool, cool, cool. Let's see. But yeah, I did check numbers. Leviathan, even after all the nerfs that have happened to this book, they're still doing well competitively. So that's pretty interesting. We'll see. Like I said, it's one of those where we will see. I think I rolled the mission and put to terrain for the roundup already. So we'll see how this goes. I don't even remember what it is now. Oh well. That's just how I live my life. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to close it out for the day. As always, important links. They'll be in the description. I just have to add them after the video goes up. And if you guys like cool theme merch, there is a Teespring store. The link will be in the description. I know the name's weird. It's just because they won't let me rename it, and I don't want to rebuild everything from the ground up. I'm just, if we're being honest, I'm just being lazy about it. So, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll see you. Oh, real quick, there's a good chance we don't stream a game this week, because I've got to grind out a whole lot of terrain for old James Workshop, because it's got to get shipped out Friday. And I've got to paint most of it. So there's a good chance we don't stream a game this week, just for everybody out there. So if you're looking forward to a stream game, it'll probably happen. Ooh, it might not happen for till April because of Adepticon. But I'll keep everybody posted on that. We'll see you guys later.